Welcome to this Zones Hazard Communication presentation. The intent of this presentation is to educate zone manufacturing employees on how to prevent unnecessary illness or injury due to chemical exposure. At the conclusion of this presentation, employees will be able to utilize presented information to safely handle, use, and store hazardous substances found in our workplace. Employees will also be able to read and understand information contained on containers, labels, and material safety data sheets. Although OSHA requires this communications program on an annual basis, a more important reason for this presentation is that employees are educated with information to prevent the unnecessary injury or illness due to hazardous material exposure. There are certain rights and responsibilities associated with OSHA's hazardous communication standards. Each year, Zones Management is responsible for reviewing chemical inventory forms to assure secondary containers are labeled properly, to review the PPE selection worksheets and verify adequate PPE is available, and to present this communications to all employees. The Federal OSHA Hazards Communication Standard also provides employees with certain rights. The right to know of the listed toxic substances presented in the workplace. The right to obtain a copy of the material safety data sheet for each listed toxic substance present. The right to training prior to exposure to a chemical on the potential adverse effects of each listed toxic substance in the workplace, how to use each substance safely, and what to do in case of emergency. You also have the right to obtain further information on the properties and hazards of toxic substances, the right to contact the Secretary of the Department of Labor to obtain further information on OSHA hazard communication standards, the right to review the written hazard communications program upon request. And just as a note, Zone's written hazard communication program is described in ISO document number 792-0147 and available on the corporate intranet. Each year, Zones Management is responsible to review and update the chemical inventory form for each area. The chemical inventory form lists all hazardous substances by name, material safety data sheet number, location, quantity, and designates if used in secondary container. Listed above is the actual inventory for the final assembly and test area for each current year. The chemical inventory form is area specific. Above is the current year chemical inventory for the SMT board shop area. There are more hazardous substances in the SMT board shop area than in the system assembly area. In fact, this is page 1 of 2. These are more hazardous substances found in the SMT board shop area. The system used at Zone to communicate hazardous information about substances in secondary containers is called NFPA, or U.S. National Fire Protection Association system. Understanding the system allows us to quickly understand the type and severity of risks associated with substances. 4 color-coded quadrants with numerical ratings on the labeling system provides a lot of information very quickly. The blue portion of the label tells us about health hazards. A number 0 to 4 rate the health risk associated with that substance. The higher the number, the greater the risk. The red section of the NFPA system rates the fire hazard. A rating of 0 to 4 rate the risks. A low number means there is no fire hazard. A higher number means it burns more readily. The yellow part of the NFPA label communicates reactivity hazard. A low number indicates a more stable substance, where a higher number shows the substance could be readily active and explode. Again, the numbers are 0 to 4. The white area of the NFPA labeling system communicates any special hazard associated with the chemical. Some examples are listed on the left.
Some of the waste generated at Zone is dangerous and must be discarded in the proper way. Many items such as wipes, gloves, soldering sponges, and Kapton tape become contaminated with lead. Any items contaminated with lead must be discarded in the red disposal container. When items become contaminated with either alcohol or epoxy, the silver disposal container must be used. Items like empty epoxy tubes or cartridges also must be cured in the silver disposal containers. Components, connectors, chip leads, and solder wick go into a recycling bucket. The buckets are located in several areas on the production floor. The bucket pictured here is in grid 15 near the solder pot. In the past, many people have mistakenly thrown paper or alcohol, epoxy waste, or lead waste into the recycling bucket. Only components, component leads, solder, or solder wick should be recycled in this bucket. Sharp items such as razor blades or X-Acto blades must be discarded in one of the sharps buckets found at several locations on the production floor. Never throw sharp objects into the normal trash. Our cleaning staff could come in contact and become injured from those sharp objects in the trash. Cloth shop towels are collected in the yellow collection buckets only. The shop towels are collected for laundering and replacement. We should not throw shop towels away. If, however, our shop towels become contaminated with lead, we cannot discard the shop towels in the yellow bucket. Lead-contaminated shop towels should go in the red lead collection bucket.
Zone Manufacturing uses personal protective equipment selection worksheets to further describe hazards and equipment needed to protect employees against unnecessary injury or illness. This form is sometimes called the PPE worksheet. This is a PPE worksheet for the final assembly area for the current year. Let's look at each block on this form more closely. Block number 1 defines the scope. Here an area and information about that area is listed. The PPE listed above is for the final assembly and test area. Block number 2 describes the machines or processes used in the area. Block number 3 lists chemical procedures used in the area. Block number 4 shows the hazardous material used or stored in the area. This block may also refer us to the chemical inventory form for the area. Block number 5 tells us the anticipated daily contact period for the chemicals listed in the area. Block number 6 tells us how the potential contact might happen. Block number 7 lists the potential physical hazards of working in the area. Block number 8 lists the equipment needed as protection against the potential hazards found in the area. Block number 9 shows some of the training required to work in this area. Note that a full listing of training needs is available from your supervisor through the Manufacturing Training Database. Block number 10 lists the disposal or recycling of the materials found in the area. There may be additional comments listed in the lower right corner of the form. Let's take a look at a typical Material Safety Data Sheet, or MSDS. The MSDS shown here is for one of the solder paste used on the SMT production line. Material safety data sheets are available from several sources here at Zone. There are MSDS books located in several spots on the production floor for employees to review at any time. Also, your supervisor can assist you in locating MSDS to help you to understand the information contained in the MSDS. MSDSs are split into sections. Each section of the MSDS contains different information about the substance. All MSDS documents have at least 9 sections. Section 1 always provides general information about the chemical or substance. Section 2 of the MSDS contains information about the hazardous ingredients of the material. Section 3 of the MSDS provides the physical information about the chemical. It describes things like boiling temperature, appearance, color, etc. Section 4 of the MSDS gives us information about the fire and explosion hazards. Here you will find listed flashpoints, how to extinguish, and special information about explosion dangers. Section 5 of the MSDS presents any health hazard data. Here one could find symptoms of exposure and any emergency first aid procedures for overexposure if that occurs. The reactivity data associated with the substance is described in Section 6 of the MSDS. This section details materials to avoid due to incompatibility. Section 7 of the MSDS contains information needed in case of spills or leaks. Special protection needs are outlined in Section 8 of the MSDS. In Section 9 of the MSDS, any special precautions dealing with handling and storage of the material are listed. Again, all MSDS must have at least 9 sections. Some MSDSs have been known to have the 10th section for additional information. This is in case there is additional information including emergency telephone numbers or contacts.
Finally, as part of the hazard communication process, we will discuss building emergency evacuation procedures. Each employee in the facility must buddy up with someone in your group. You must be aware of your buddy. During a fire drill or emergency evacuation, meet your buddy at the staging area. Be aware of your buddy and report to your head count manager if your buddy is missing. The staging area for a fire drill or emergency evacuation is across the parking lot from the employee entrance to manufacturing. The area in front of H building, shaded in red, is the area to meet. Remember, go directly to the staging area if the building is evacuated. Never stop to smoke or sit in your car. Your head count manager will be looking for you at the staging area. We want no one left behind if there is an actual emergency in the building. If there is a tornado warning, an alert will be made over the intercom. If you hear an alert of a tornado warning, move immediately to one of the areas in yellow pictured here. Thank you for your patience. If you have any additional questions about the materials presented here, please feel free to contact your manager or the environmental health and safety representative.